Take me out tonight. Whoa. Hello everyone, Ryan here, and today I'm doing a review on the brand new album titled Science Fiction. This album pretty much came out of nowhere after 8 years of silence from Brand New, although they released a few tracks in 2015. Those tracks haven't made this album, but it has been a long time coming for Brand New fans. And it pretty much seems as though that this is their farewell album. I don't believe there will be an album after this. This is the closing album to Brand New. And fans of emo will already be familiar with Brand New. Of course, they have albums like Déjà Entendu and The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me, which I think are both really good albums, especially The Devil and God. I think that album is amazing. But for the super emo fans, Brand New have become a bit of a polarizing band, should I say, as a lot of people don't really consider their music that emo, and a lot of people think they're a bit weak in that genre. And although their influences are pretty big, I mean, of course, there were a lot of 90s bands that were doing what they did before Brand New, but Brand New ended up getting all of the acclaim and all of the attention. They still are a good band, and the frontman Jesse always writes really well-written lyrical songs that are quite relatable for people that have emotions similar to him. And even their music I've always found pretty good too. So I was obviously having pretty high expectations before going into this album, and I've got to say, they didn't quite meet my expectations. I mean, especially considering just looking online, everyone has been raving about this Brand New album. I still think it is good, but there are some flaws that I do think need addressing, which I will get to in this review. But for Brand New, this is very much a brand new album. I mean, they have the usual loathsome, depression related, mentally, unstable lyrical topics, which do go really deep into those topics as well. I mean, some of these tracks are really emotionally wrecked, and they do make for interesting listens. Like case in point, the track Same Logic / Teeth, which is a track that faces all the self-harm that Jesse puts himself through, and on the chorus he states that he continues to use the same coping methods to get through the depression that he always does, but each time they don't ever work, and he still does it even though it won't work for him, which I suppose ends up putting him in this cycle of self-harm, self-hatred, and then attempting to fix this problem, but then using the same thing again and it doesn't work, and then it just goes round and round and round. And this track also delves into some post-hardcore, which I really like. I think this is a really good sound for the band. They don't do it much on the album though. I would have liked to have heard more of this. And apparently the track Desert is written from the perspective of a bigoted Christian American, which obviously has the usual tropes that you would hear from the conservative end of the spectrum about immigration and homophobia too on that track. And the song also has a really good refrain, which I like too. The chorus is really good on this one. And yeah, I suppose that lyrically it's pretty interesting coming from that angle and perspective. It's very different for Brand New. The song 137 has Jesse tackling the world's problems, and his way of solving those problems is by destroying the earth. It's a very defeatist attitude and morbid sentiment, but of course he is coming from this angle, in a sarcastic way. He's not really taking it all that seriously. And there are points where this album gets a little meta too. I mean, on some of the tracks like In the Water, he is literally referencing previous songs that the band have made, which certainly makes this album feel more like a closing album, like they're closing the curtain and looking back on previous work that they've done. And it's not just that track that gets meta, it's also the track Waste, which is Jesse writing to his past self. I suppose it might not be the most unique concept for a song ever made, but it actually works really well, and it's one of the best written songs on the album, and I really like this one too. So yeah, lyrically it's a brand new album, and of course I'm always interested in what they have to say from a songwriting perspective, but now I've got to get to some of the issues, and it's the music itself, I think, on this album. Lit Me Up is a really boring start to the album. I mean, I don't think this was the best introduction to this album at all. It does start off with a tape recorder at the beginning, this person talking about therapy, and the track itself is referring to therapy, and the lit me up sort of refrain is referencing how like you can cleanse yourself, and when you are lit up you see things differently. But musically, it just drags and drags and drags. It's about a 5 minute song, and not at one point am I, grabbed by any of the music that's going on. I'm just pretty bored. Could Never Be Heaven has this repetitive refrain that I'm not really all that interested in. And I mean, I suppose it is a bit more faster paced than some of the songs, but I'm still not really that hyped over it. And really, towards the end of this album, there are a few songs that I just don't have any interest in. I mean, No Control isn't really something I'm all that bothered about. 451 isn't a very musically exciting song. There is Can't Get It Out though, which melodically is faster, and I really do like the song. It's one of my favourites on the whole album. It's very upbeat. It calls back to like Deja Entendu days where the music was a bit more accessible. This song to me sounds just like classic Brand New, to be honest. And sonically, this whole album actually runs very similar to like a Sun Kill Moon album. It's very strange. I could imagine Mark Koslick, rambling over some of these instrumentals. It's a little weird, but I do feel like there may be some influence from them in this album, to be honest. Of course, there is a lot to like on this album. I feel like Brand New fans are going to absolutely rave over this. It's going to be some people's album of the year for sure. And I do really like it, but it's just the closing track, Batter Up, is this 8 minute somber track, which obviously is a perfect way to end this album because the entire album has, depressing lyrics, a very somber mood to the whole album, very different to their previous albums, I think. But to end on this really underwhelming slow burner doesn't really give me much reason to want to go back to the album. I mean, it just reminds me of some of the tracks that I don't like on the album, so I'm just left thinking, do I really want to listen to this again? And the answer, I think, is unfortunately no, but it doesn't make this a bad album. It's still good. There is a lot of qualities to this. It's very much a brand new album, so of course brand new fans will love it. I think it's a good album. At points it's hit or miss for me, and overall I'd probably give this a grade C+. Yeah, if you've never listened to Brand New, then I would start with Deja Entendu and then go to Devil and God and then go to this, to be honest. Like, close off with this album because it is like the final album from a band, so it would make sense to go to this album last. If you've already heard this album, then do let me know what you think in the comments. Subscribe to the channel for more album reviews, and have a good day.